Well, then the cars changed, and there was a new car for 98.
Yeah.
96, 99, beg your
Right.
pardon, 99. And it was going to be a tough year because everyone wanted to get in, and Bernie was trying to restrict it. So first of all, he said, right, anybody who wants a car, I've got to pay up front for them. Right. So in like August, we had to pay up front for them. Then Bernie came, right, you've got to pay for your engines up front in September, which is serious, big investments going out here. But we ended up still with too many cars in the championship.
Right.
Can I stop a minute?
Yeah, sure.
I need to wait. Yeah, so it was a pretty bad time for motor racing because we had possibly 32 cars, these new series, all identical. But you go to some races, there'll be 24 starters, Monaco 20, and they did pre-qualifying for 20 minutes or something. And I still had Werner Luckberger from the 2 years before driving for me. But I realised at certain events he would struggle to qualify, as a lot of people would. We're talking, nearly half the grid not qualifying. And when people were paying £500,000 to drive for the season, I thought it was wrong for Werner, because I knew the family and everything. And I was worried about the situation. And I was approached by a chap called Paul Stoddart, who was sponsoring Tyrrell's at the moment, he had an aviation business. And he wanted to buy into a team. And I thought, well, look, I can't see how this is going to work this year, because we're going to struggle to get drivers who guarantee it.
Right.
So he came in and basically funded it, but he wanted his own drivers in his own selection, this and this and this and this. And so I said to Werner, look, mate, I think this is the best thing. And what I actually did, I moved him to another team in England with my cards and gave them all the setups and helped them and do that. There was a European series going on of the old cars. Yeah. So then we were going to run Jamie Davies and Oliver Gavin under European Aviation. He brought some of his people in, and the plan was it would stay in Edenbridge until the end of the year, and then he would take it to his place at Ledbury. Okay. All right. And so he guaranteed he'd pay all the staff to the end of the year, the rent for the premises where I was, all that sort of stuff. Right. It was all laid down. Back and white. So it was a very, I shall say, basic sort of Australian. And we went to a few races and went to Monaco and got points at Monaco, which is good. Should have had more, but Jamie sadly got balked on the last corner in qualifying. But it was very up and down. Went to Manicourt, and neither driver qualified. Missed by thousands, but we didn't. It was possible. Yeah. And he immediately said, "I'm taking the team. I'm having it. It's coming back to mine. You've sabotaged the team. You sent them out with the wrong tyre pressures." Absolute lies, of course, of everything. Tony Jardine was working for him doing press, had a press release already done, so it was all pre-planned. And I want it back, I want it to go straight back to Ledbury in his place. And I said, well, look, okay. I said, but we've got to stop in Edenbridge because I've got stuff in there that belongs to me that isn't yours. Obviously I'm not happy about any of this and all this. He spoke to the truck. He said, if you don't go straight back, I'm suing you personally for everything you've got. I mean, man is nasty. So then I got a call from so we agreed that we're going back. I then get a call from my secretary saying, Peter, he said, we've got 4 big blokes outside. He'd sent 4 heavies into my garage premises where the race team was based, to stand there waiting for the trucks to come back. Big heavies. He demanded that we went straight to his place. I said, no, we're going to stop in Edenbridge, we'll swap stuff over and all that sort of stuff. He then had people waiting at Dover to meet the trucks.
Right.
And when it came, he took and off he went with his stuff. None of my staff went. All right, the engineers, none of them, because they all realised what a nasty bit of work this man was. Okay, fine. All right. I said, lads, it's okay, lads. I'm paying you. It's all sorted.
Sure.
And I was heartbroken because I just couldn't believe what this bloke had done. He was threatening to sue my wife at the time and myself for shareholders for this, for everything we've got, and He had a lawyer employed full time by himself.
Right.
You know, he was a nasty man. So, well, okay, you know, at least. Then, of course, he never paid.
Right.
Never paid. So I had the upper hand because what you had to do then is there was a company called Side Puma Limited, which actually held the entrance license,
Right.
which is a company I had. Now you needed that with the points to
Sure.
go ahead for the following years. So I spoke to Max because I got quite well with Max, believe it or not, and yeah, he was actually helping my solicitor and all this sort of stuff. And we had him because we had at the end of the year, because I had the points, he would have had to pay me to get the company to do the entry, which is fine. It was about 150,000. So then I had the court case ongoing, and then we received a letter that the FIA had granted him permission to change the name without the company, which is totally against FIA regulations and all that sort of stuff. But obviously I think that Bernie and Max realised there was this Australian man who was going to put money into Formula One, must be more important than Pete Briggs, and so basically turned me over. So we still went ahead with the court case, but he had folded that company who was handling it,
So it's nothing
so
to
it
get
ended
hold
up
of.
in nothing. So not a very nice taste, actually.
To finish with.
Yeah, and it was, and I to this day I'm sure it's because they realised this idiot Australian was going to put money into everything. He actually didn't have a lot of money. Everything he had was borrowed and everything was second hand. He bought all the Tyrrell stuff, and I went up to his place, and it was all decked out with computers and everything, but none of them were connected. You know, he had loads of second hand rusty old trucks. Everything he had was second hand and nasty. And that sadly was what the bloke was like, and he dealt in second hand aircraft parts. So, anyway,
Aviation, that's right.
Bella never had to do them again. So anyway, forget him. And then I stopped for a while, concentrated on my garages and stuff.
Still, yeah. So you still had the dealership? Dealerships?
Yeah. That was still going, and that was all happening.
Yeah.
And then, what did I do? I got involved in touring cars.
Yes. Talking about Macau,
Well, I worked with Barry Bland actually.
Right.
Because part of the problem with Stoddart and everything, I also received about the same time a letter from Honda saying that they wanted to change their policy and they didn't want to deal with dealer operators. They wanted big groups.
Right.
So they terminated like a third of the dealer network, me being one of them. So from earning a lot of money, I was all of a sudden zero. And then I had Stoddart, and then I got divorced. So it all hit me. So it was all a bit of a mess at the time, to be honest with you. It was all a bit nasty. And I think Stoddart had a lot to do with the divorce, actually, because it affected her as well as me.